Now, a common complaint I keep seeing made about the Andor series is that it doesn't feel very Star Wars-like, that it doesn't involve the Force at all, or have Jedi and Sith. We haven't seen a single lightsaber yet, there isn't much in the way of space battles, and in general, there isn't a whole lot of action other than every third episode or so. And though, as I've said before, I do understand why that might be disappointing to some people. I get there are certain things many have come to expect in Star Wars, and I can't lie, I love and enjoy a good space battle or lightsaber duel as much as the next fan. But the thing is, as great as all that can be, they're not even close to what's kept me a Star Wars fan for, well, my entire life. Since I was a 5-year-old kid watching Return of the Jedi in the theater, very much enthralled with all the cool stuff I just mentioned, and missing the substance underneath the surface. Substance I'd only come to appreciate when I got a little older and saw it in a whole new light. And so, yeah, though I love the spectacle we oftentimes get in Star Wars, what has instead kept me fascinated with the franchise over the decades, what at times makes me a fervent defender of it when I think it's being treated poorly or done wrong, are the underlying themes I always talk about on this channel, which, to quickly go over them for the millionth time, are more than just good versus evil, though yes, that is of course part of it. But rather, what is really at the heart of Star Wars is the inner battle of selfless versus selfish, as I kind of talked about the other day in my review of the 10th episode of Andor, and to be warned, there will be spoilers for that episode in this video. Some of the biggest and most important battles in Star Wars take place within. It's the decisions of the individual that oftentimes shape or determine the fate of the galaxy, and the sacrifices they're willing or unwilling to make. Anakin Skywalker, I think, is the best example of all of this. In Revenge of the Sith, he has to decide between saving a Sith Lord to perhaps save his wife, who he's had visions of dying in childbirth, or letting that Sith Lord die in order to ensure the galaxy is forever rid of the Sith, but perhaps sacrificing his wife in the process. This one choice, Anakin's personal choice, will decide the fate of so many of the very galaxy itself. And the bitter twist of irony here is that if he had been selfless, if he had let go of Padme, as a Jedi should, she would have never died, because the only reason she does die is because he falls to the dark side and breaks her heart, and we know the whole story there. But anyway, to really get to it here, in the most recent episode of Andor, the 10th episode, we get a few examples that I feel do an amazing job of exploring the themes of Star Wars in different yet very fascinating ways, but are very much on point for what Star Wars is nonetheless. We get 2 speeches from 2 very different characters that show that being selfless and sacrificing does not always look one and the same, and that being selfless doesn't always exactly make you the best person ever, that doing what is right or fighting for a just cause can be complicated. First of all, we had the speech by Kino Loy. We had a man leading a prison break, inspiring people to fight for their lives and their freedom, knowing full well he himself could not truly find that freedom or save his life because he couldn't swim, and the prison was, of course, surrounded by water. For him, when he chants one way out, he means his only way out is death. But he chants it all the same because he's hoping the price of his life will buy the freedom of so many others. And this, you could certainly say, is the ultimate form of selflessness and sacrifice. To give your life for the lives of others is akin to what the Jedi themselves do. They devote themselves to others and forsake attachments in order to always put others before themselves or their own wants. They are the epitome of selflessness, willing to lay down their life if need be for the sake of others. And so the actions of Kino Loy and what he inspires, the meek yet heroic rising up to overthrow the mighty yet cruel, I'd say is pretty much classic Star Wars. However, right after this, you get this long kind of speech or monologue from Luthen Rael, where he talks about how he has been selfless and sacrificing as well, though in a whole different way. That after all the horrible things he's done to hopefully and eventually bring about a better tomorrow, he himself will never be able to enjoy it. That he has become something almost worse than the enemies he is trying to defeat. That, as he's talked about before, or in a previous episode, he's even trying to provoke his enemies to bring in greater misery upon the galaxy in order to spur the people into action against them. He's even willing to let 50 men be killed in order to preserve the cover of one spy. And so where Kino offered a message of hope to inspire people to fight, Luthen uses a hammer of dread and oppression, the tools of his enemy, to force people to take a stand or suffer immensely. And the price he pays is not with his life or body like Kino did, but with his very soul. But they are not the only 2 we see in this episode who are being selfless and asked to make a sacrifice. We have Mon Mothma, who could in theory just be like so many of the other wealthy senators on Coruscant. She could be ignoring what's really going on in the galaxy, what the Empire is really doing, and just sitting back and enjoying her position and living the good life with her inherited wealth. But instead of that, the biggest problem currently she's facing is actually trying to use that wealth of hers to help fund the rebellion, to help the people of the galaxy in her own way, since she's come to realize that doing it on the Senate floor, bringing about change through the system, is pointless because so many are just enjoying what the Empire provides them. Though this of course comes with its own set of problems and risks, chief among them being the Empire learning what she is doing with her money, but the money itself, or giving it to the cause, is not the actual sacrifice she's making or will be asked to make, which isn't to say giving money and the risk that comes with it, should the Empire find out, that it isn't noble. It certainly is a selfless act to give money to others or to put herself at risk. But the true sacrifice she's being asked to make is to forsake her principles and essentially to give up her daughter, or to see her daughter married to the son of a businessman who can help her secretly move her money around. And though, yeah, there's every chance that her daughter truly falls in love and enjoys her life with Davos' son, and that might actually scar Mon even worse, but there's also every chance she ends up in a marriage like hers, like Mon's marriage, one that seems to be devoid of any real joy. And though you can argue that this isn't on par with Kino giving his life or Luthen giving his soul, she's nonetheless being asked to give or sacrifice her heart. She's being asked to, in a sense, betray the trust of her daughter, to put her sacred duty as a mother secondary to the cause she's fighting for. Not to mention uphold the tradition of her people she's not exactly in favor of after how her own arranged marriage has worked out for her. It also, in this very same episode, was the line that Lonnie, the ISB spy, that he was unwilling to cross. His daughter was the reason he wanted to get out, and now here is Mon being asked to give up her daughter to get in even deeper. We are, in classic Star Wars fashion here, seeing how the decisions of the individual, personal decisions, you could argue, will shape the very fate of the galaxy. And so the arguments I see that this is somehow not Star Wars because it doesn't have lightsabers or what have you, I simply don't get that unless you think Star Wars is nothing more than surface-level spectacle, which if that is indeed what you enjoy it for, then so be it. You do you, more power to you. I'm not here to tell you what you can like or how you can like it or why you should like it. But as I argued in a video the other day when I compared the Obi-Wan series to this Andor series, the spectacle is not the only reason Star Wars was such a massive success when it first came out, or why it is still around today. Yes, it was part of it, no doubt about that. It visually blew people away at the time, and as I said at the top of this video, I understand it's sort of expected in Star Wars, and I don't think you're wrong for wanting or expecting to see it. I enjoy all that stuff quite a bit as well. But without the themes underneath it, without the core ideas of Star Wars firmly in place to give meaning to the spectacle, then you just end up with cool stuff on screen, which in this day and age with the advancement of special effects, damn near any film with a decent budget can pull that off. And so if you're someone who thinks Kenobi is more Star Wars than Andor because it did have lightsabers and Jedi and plenty of action, I'd ask you, what lesson did we learn from that show? What was the underlying theme or takeaway? How was Kenobi truly a Jedi in it? How was he selfless, and what did we see him sacrifice? Because what I saw was him unable or unwilling to kill Darth Vader at the end, to do what he must, even though he said he was going to, for the betterment of the galaxy, to give up what was left of his apprentice or his brother for the sake of saving so many lives that Vader would eventually take after this. The Kenobi series ends with our hero's hands covered in blood because he was unable to sacrifice anything. And later he'll even ask Anakin's son, Luke, to be the one who kills him. In Andor, though our heroes may not fit the classic hero's trope, or this might not be the hero's journey as we come to know it from previous Star Wars, we nevertheless see a man give up his life to save others, and then we see another man give up his soul to condemn 50 people to death in order to preserve one spy, in the hope that that one spy, in the long run, leads to far more than 50 lives being saved. We see characters giving up everything they have, making impossible, very difficult decisions. We see Mon Mothma giving up her heart, essentially, or we assume she eventually will. She hasn't quite in this episode, but we certainly know she's probably going to do it in the long run. And she's doing it to do her part to try and save the galaxy from evil. But Obi-Wan Kenobi, he can't even kill a monster who admits what was once left of his brother is dead and gone. So remind me again, exactly how was the Obi-Wan Kenobi series more Star Wars than this? Well, that's all I've got for you this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you think about all this. Is Andor hitting on all the underlying themes of Star Wars, even if it isn't always delivering the spectacle that, yes, all too often does go hand in hand with Star Wars? Whatever the case may be, whatever you think, leave your comments below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.